This video is titled DEI Carnage. Will Brett Weinstein apologize for it? Okay? Check this out. This is his wife, by the way, on the right, I think.
Question is, we're now in the early days of an administration that is behaving in a radical fashion relative to anything we've seen in our lifetimes. And I want to just point out that all of those who said to people like you and me, you're being suckers, he's just like the others.
Okay, I'm not sure who he's referring to when he says he's just like the others. Who said he's just like the others? I don't know. I think people were mostly saying he said he wants to be a dictator on day one. He intends to be a dictator. Was he talking about like the very, very slim minority of people who are both Republican and also anti-Trump? I don't know a single human being that said he's just like the others in the 2024 election.
You'll see. If he gets elected, I hope he does good things, but it's going to be more of the same. Mm-hmm. Well,
I literally don't remember anybody saying that in the 2024 election.
You guys turn out to be wrong. That's not true. However, the radicalness and the all-encompassing nature of this wrecking ball approach to what came before puts those of us who have despaired over the course of decades at the corruption of our system in an interesting new spot, one for which we do not have a well-developed perspective, and we don't know how to respond. So the predicament is...
Dude, I'm sorry. His hair is so fucking stupid. I cannot stand how stupid his hair looks. It's just really hard to deal with. It's hard to make it through. And the only way that I'm making it through right now is by looking at this video game instead of that stupid fucking hair that he has on his head right now. Is this a wig? What is this? What's wrong with this? Shave your head. Do anything but what you're doing right now. Please, I am begging you.
And we don't know how to respond. So the predicament is there is lots of carnage that is going to arise out of the level of disruption represented by the Trump administration.
So he's saying basically like everything is going to be destroyed by the Trump administration. Like what he's doing right now is going to destroy countless people's lives. Yes, that is accurate. Apt observation.
And there's a question about what the right way to respond to it is. What our obligation is as people who have values, who are in part at some level responsible for this person having taken power, because we made the case to lots of people that actually there was no choice. And I absolutely still believe that.
There was no choice, as in Donald Trump was a superior pick and Kamala Harris was there's nothing good about her. She was awful. That was his position, his claim.
But is this level of carnage something that we should be decrying? I mean, we're going to be watching thousands of people ushered out of the executive branch. That is going to have massive implications for what the government can do.
Yeah, it's going to ruin a lot of people's lives. And you know why? If for no other reason than because the federal government, it doesn't just employ 2 million people, but that creates soft power around the world. And our economy operates based off of the assumption that the federal government is going to contribute to the economy. Like farmers, for example, have like $2.5 billion worth of seed purchased from them every year, I think, by U.S. aid to send to other countries to try to build these countries up. Now, once U.S. aid goes away, where's all of that money going? Nowhere. It's not going anywhere. It's not being spent on the farmers. The farmers now have $2.6 billion less that's being purchased from them. Like, are you serious? You think this is a good idea? All of that money that they're complaining about that the U.S. government was spending, they were spending on the U.S. economy, like NASA spending millions or billions or whatever to get to the moon or to Mars. They're not just like sending, like they're not putting the $1 billion in a rocket ship and then sending those dollar bills to Mars, right? Those dollars that are being spent, those billions, are being put back into our economy. You realize like half of the aid that Ukraine is getting from us is in like equipment sales. So that money, $100 billion or whatever, is really going back into our economy to purchase guns from gun manufacturers and stuff to build our economy up. I don't understand how you can possibly think this is a good idea what Donald Trump is doing. It's like the economy is a very complicated machine, and what you're doing is going to destroy it completely. Federal workers aren't just like expendable people who don't need to do a job or whatever. The work that they do keeps the economy running, and we are headed for a major crash if things don't stop.
It's going to have implications for the burden on society of people who don't have a job. There's lots of stuff, and lots of it is going to be negative. And there's a question about, should he not be doing these things
No, he should not. Absolutely not.
because of the disruption, because of the unemployment, because there's no overarching plan with what to do with lots of workers who, let's say they were employed in DEI and now they're suddenly unemployed.
They were employed in DEI. What do you think DEI is? What do you mean when you say they were employed in DEI? Do you mean they were employed by a DEI program? Do you mean they're what? I don't know. I don't know what that means. They're employed in DEI?
Like, how are we to respond? What is our obligation? And there's something I want to avoid, and I want all of the people in our position to avoid, which is critiquing the costs in order to maintain our credibility, right?
Critiquing the costs to maintain credibility. Okay, go on.
The real question is not, are there massive costs and are they horrifying? There are going to be massive costs to this, and they will be horrifying. The question is the opportunity to reduce those costs and still do the good that's being done there and being missed? Or is this the expected level of cost in order to take a system that was riddled through with cancer and cut it out?
Okay. I don't fully understand what he's trying to get at here, but let me just lay this down for you. A, it's not Elon Musk's job to even examine the cancer, let alone cut it out. You know whose job it is? Inspector generals and attorneys general. That's whose job it is to investigate that and cut it out. And Trump fired a bunch, like 17 of them or something, within the first week. If he really wanted to cut down on like waste, fraud, and abuse, why did he fire those people? The people who are literally tasked with stopping waste, fraud, and abuse. He doesn't care about that. He just wants his friends to take advantage of the waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all. Additionally, what was it?
System that was riddled through with cancer and cut it out.
Yeah, it's not anybody's place to cut it out. It's Congress's place to cut it out, or the inspectors general, to examine it and to try to cut down on all of the fraud and abuse. But you know what? It turns out there's almost no waste, fraud, or abuse in the government. There's very, very little. And I'm not going to feed into this nonsense where he claims that there is, with no evidence. Literally zero evidence.
Right? This is a wrecking ball going after a racket, right? This is a wrecking ball taking down the edifice that has housed a racket for decades.
But it hasn't. That's completely made up. There is no racket. There is no edifice that houses a racket or whatever. It's complete nonsense. And either way, even if it were, it's not Elon Musk's job. There is a process we go through for this to investigate this stuff. Inspectors general. Why did Donald Trump fire them if he cared about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse? Because he doesn't. He never did.
I expect there to be carnage. I don't want to be a sucker. I don't want to make excuses for an administration that's doing harm it doesn't need to do. But at the level that
But he said, I don't want to make excuses for an administration that's doing harm it doesn't need to do, but I'm going to anyway, of course.
we had, we were literally sanctioning the maiming of children.
No, just complete delusion. That was not happening. I don't know what he is smoking. This is fictitious garbage.
In the name of protecting health and honoring diversity.
Yep.
That is insane.
That was not happening. Yeah, well, he's saying that U.S. aid was basically spending billions of dollars every year on giving trans people like trans-affirming surgeries. Fictitious. Just made up. Complete nonsense. All the way down. Not real.
Ending that is a massive good. I don't want to make excuses on the basis that massive good has been done and I'm going to look the other way if unnecessary harm is also done. There are things you and I have talked about we're concerned over. Do I like the idea of getting over climate madness and having an
climate madness, he says. Climate madness. You know what's really sad to me? Concern over climate change or climate change denial is very clearly propaganda produced by one specific set of people. And I'll tell you how I know that. One of the main solutions to climate change is going all renewable energy, right? Wind turbines, solar farms, nuclear power plants, that type of deal. And we didn't always have the ability to go fully renewable, but about 10 years ago, we made a breakthrough in battery technology and other technologies that makes it possible for us to go fully 100% renewable. End result B of switching to a fully renewable energy system. Well, energy prices would drop through the floor for everybody because we wouldn't have people like digging in coal mines and stuff. Certainly not anywhere near as much. We wouldn't have to pay for all these oil refineries and everything else. Fossil fuels are really like pretty inefficient, all things considered. And B, we would be cleaning up climate change and we would be creating jobs. C, we'd create new jobs for people. And all of that oil that we dig out of the ground, I forget what it is, 16 billion barrels a year or something like that. Let me look that up one more time. I forget. We pull roughly 4.7 billion barrels of oil out of the ground every year based on 2023 data. Then what was I thinking of? Oh, okay. I was thinking of day. We pull basically 13 million barrels of crude oil per day out of the ground. 13 million barrels. However, we get some oil from like other countries like Colombia, and we have equipment here that can process and refine their oil because different oil from different areas of the world have different like refinery requirements. Like I think there's something called sweet oil and bitter oil based on how they taste, really, not joking. And the refinement process gets more butane out of this one and more gasoline out of that one or whatever, Anyway, we refine a whole bunch of oil. Other countries' oil also they send to us. And we send them back, a certain amount of like gasoline or whatever, or we pay for theirs. Anyway, the point is that we are producing massive amounts of oil per day right now. Like 21 million barrels per day is what it looks like we're producing. We're pulling up 13 million barrels a day just in the United States alone. That's what we're digging up. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to see. So the United States pays $76 per barrel right now. That's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's what we're spending for the reserve, the SPR. $76 per barrel, which means 10 million barrels is $760 million. All right, we're using 20 million barrels of oil per day. 20 million barrels per day, right? 20 million barrels a day. That means we are using in the vicinity of $1.5 billion per day worth of oil. That's how much oil the United States is using right now. $1.5 billion worth a day, if my calculations are correct. Obviously, check my math and everything, but I believe that's correct. $1.5 billion a day, right? $550 billion a year worth of oil, looks like, is what we're using. Again, we make money off of some of this. We pull it out of the ground. We sell some of it and stuff like that. So it's not costing us that much actually. But imagine if we were fully renewable. Imagine if we didn't have the cost of like using any of that oil. Imagine what we could do with it. We could continue pulling it out of the ground, be completely energy independent. We don't have to worry about making up reserves or whatever, like making up a difference, because we only pull 13 million barrels a day out and we need 21 million a day. So we have to make up that difference somewhere. Like a third of the oil that we get has to come from somewhere else, right? Energy independent like that if we set up renewable energy, like nuclear power and stuff. And then we have another source of revenue, like insane amounts of money that we could make from selling the oil that we pull out of the ground here. So what's the downside exactly to going fully renewable? What group of people could possibly want us to not go renewable? There's one group of people that I can think of, one set of companies that I can think of that wouldn't want us to go fully renewable, because they have a vested interest in making sure that oil continues to, be valuable or whatever. And this poor, dumb sucker fell for it. He fell for the propaganda from this industry, from these leeches on society, these oil industry magnates. The people that get subsidies from the government for doing basically nothing. These leeches lied. And this guy believed them, like the sucker that he is. Anyway, let's step back now that I've gone on that whole tangent. I'm sorry. I just don't understand how anybody can be so fucking stupid as to believe the trash coming out of these people's mouths.
There are things you and I have talked about, we're concerned over. Do I like the idea of getting over climate madness and having an energy policy that is rational in light of the hazard we face from our competitors, in light of the demands and their rate of change over the advent of AI? Yeah, I want intelligent energy policy, but I don't want drill baby drill. That was never smart.
Nope.
Right?
Wait, why wasn't that smart? Exactly. Why isn't it smart if quote unquote climate madness isn't something that we should worry about? Why isn't it smart to drill? I don't understand what your hang up is with this. He's acting like there's nuance here. No, there's no nuance. We just don't need oil. We need to get away from oil entirely. It's a finite resource. Geothermal energy is not finite. It's renewable. Solar farms are not finite. They are renewable. Wind turbines are not finite. What is the downside? Why are you complaining about this at all? I don't understand. The best I can guess is that he is just that much of a sucker that he lapped up what these propagandists were putting down.
Should we be drilling? That's a question. And where should we be drilling? And what should the standards of that drilling be?
No, the answer is no. Ideally, we would move away from it entirely. It isn't a question. It's destroying the planet. It's going to make it impossible to live on this planet if we don't stop. And we can stop. Why would we continue? There's one group of people who would want us to. One.
Those are all questions I want to... I'm an adult. I'm not saying don't drill, but I'm saying drill baby drill is like, hey, let's not be careful about this. We know how to get the oil out, and there's going to be some carnage, and that's not my bag. So I want to retain the ability to critique that which actually deserves critique. But
Brother, please, I am begging you. If you ever see this, I don't know that you will. If you pull one thing from the things that I have to say, if you derive one message, the message that I hope that you would get is cut your fucking hair differently.
I do not want to maintain that ability by critiquing just simply in order that I can later go back and say, well, I was resisting that, Well,
it's a little bit, what you're objecting to is the same kind of conversational expectation of, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but, right? Yep. Like whenever you discuss anyone about whom many people have a negative impression and maybe that negative impression is warranted. Very often it is not. It is the product of an intentional campaign.
Dude, what the hell are they even saying? I feel like they're going the Jordan Peterson route of just rambling meaninglessly. It is just like nonsensical gibberish. Let's just step back 15 seconds and try one more time. Her hair is okay, by the way. He needs to do something with that. Like, shave it all off. That would be preferable to what it currently is. I'm sorry. All right, let's try one more time here.
Expectation of, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but, right? Like whenever you discuss anyone about whom many people have a negative impression.
Whenever you discuss things about someone people don't like, why don't you just say that? Whenever you talk about somebody that people don't like Donald Trump, presumably.
And maybe that negative impression is warranted. Very often it is not. It is the product of...
Okay, now she's going off in a different direction. I thought we were talking about something completely different. Very often the negative impression of Trump isn't warranted, is what she's saying. That's why I couldn't understand a fucking word out of her mouth, because she's going in like 16 different directions. Just listen to the winding trash coming out of her mouth for a second. 15 seconds back one more time.
About whom many people...
Step back a little further here.
Conversational expectation of, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but, right? Like whenever you discuss anyone about whom many people have a negative impression, and maybe that negative impression is warranted. Very often it is not. It is the product of an intentional campaign to slander someone. And so in order to get in the door, it feels necessary, less so for you and me now, but it often feels necessary, is to start by saying, like, of course I don't agree with everything, but, and this, I think this is...
Okay, no. She's saying when people talk about Donald Trump, if it's going to be positive, then they have to precede their positive statement about him by saying, don't agree with him, don't like him, he's terrible, completely contrary to everything, but I do blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever.
Is at sort of a broader scale. Like, you know what? We can assume that as you speak, we can assume that you don't agree with everything that is being done. We would like to assume that as adults, we understand trade-offs, and that I feel like you went back and forth between two analogies there, but the cancer one is apt.
No, it wasn't. The cancer one was not apt in any way, shape, or form. It was the exact opposite of what's happening right now. First of all, it's not Elon Musk's place to cut any cancer out or even examine the cancer. It's Inspector General's positions to do that. And second, there really is no cancer in the federal government like that. What they're describing does not exist, but okay.
That what you're trying to do is kill the cancer before you kill the patient. And
I mean, that's how cancer treatment works, yes.
So we need a system. We need an American system. But the American system has been so riddled with a cancer, if you will.
But you don't have to do that with the U.S. government. Saying you have to kill the cancer before you kill the patient. And she's applying that to our real life situation here. You have to destroy the federal workforce before you destroy the country. One necessarily follows the other. One is going to happen. Like, the country will be destroyed if you destroy the federal workforce. That's just how it works. The cancer comparison is complete nonsense. Real life doesn't work that way. Now, I know that he's an evolutionary biologist, or I'm pretty sure. I don't know what she is. Is she anything? What's her name? What is Eric Weinstein's IQ is the first thing that pops up. What is his IQ? What's Joe Rogan's IQ? 127? Oh, come on. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I think he's 98. What's Kanye's IQ? 133? Please. 133. All right. Top 1% IQ is over 135. So they're saying that Kanye is basically top 1% smartest people on the planet. Lady Gaga's IQ is 166, according to this. Oh my God, this is so fucking stupid, dude. This is so stupid. What am I even looking at? I don't even care about his IQ. What is Eric Weinstein's wife's name? That's what I was looking for. That's not right. No, I was thinking maybe, yeah, it was Brett Weinstein. I'm sorry. Not Eric. Heather Hying. Heather Hying. Education. Hold on. She have an education in anything? She got her doctoral at UC Santa Cruz, BA, and then University of Michigan, PhD. Okay, that's not nothing. Scientific career. She's an evolutionary biologist, apparently. Wow. The evolutionary ecology and sexual selection of a Madagascan poison frog was her thesis, her doctoral thesis. Wow. That is very interesting, actually. And what about Eric Weinstein? Or I'm sorry, what about Brett Weinstein? Ugh, Brett Weinstein. Let me look him up. University of Pennsylvania and University of California, Santa Cruz. That was his BA. And then he got his master's and his PhD at University of Michigan, same place as his wife. He was involved in evolutionary biology. He worked at Evergreen State College. His doctoral thesis, evolutionary trade-offs, emergent constraints, and their adaptive consequences. Interesting. Emergent constraints and their adaptive consequences. Huh. Let me just check the thesis. How many citations does it have, I wonder? It's written in 2009, and it was, I have a copy of his thesis here. It's about the fruit bat. Very interesting. It's 100 pages long. Wow. Well, anyway, the point that I was getting to is that these two people are very educated and knowledgeable on evolution. They're both basically evolutionary biologists. So when you hear them say things that are scientifically, factually incorrect, you can be sure that they're lying, knowingly, intentionally falsifying information. Let's keep listening here.
System, but the American system has been so riddled with a cancer, if you will, that it has, and the only tools that we have left at this point, because the cancer is so advanced, is going to do some harm to some parts of the system that we would rather not do harm to.
I mean, that would probably make sense if what was happening was anything like cancer, but it's not. We don't have to do harm to anybody in the U.S. to check for waste, fraud, and abuse. We just have to hire some inspectors general and give them the resources that they need to go to town. Instead, Donald Trump fired them.
I have not seen anyone propose other ways.
Are you shitting me? You haven't seen other propositions? Inspectors general, that is their literal job. And why would you eliminate the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Why would you do that? They were the scam police. They made sure that people were not being scammed. They made sure that if you were promised identity theft protection, you got it. It was real. It wasn't made up. They didn't just take $10 a month from you and then offer you literally nothing in return. They made sure that if a bank was charging you fees, they were legitimate fees. They weren't made up junk fees. They made sure that they made sure that unsubscribing from a service is equally as simple as subscribing for the service. That's what the CFPB did. Why did they eliminate the CFPB illegally? Why did they do that? Took an act of Congress to bring it into existence and to fund it. And it brings in, I think, 7 times more money than it costs to run through fees and stuff for these company fines, because these companies are like violating consumer rights, so they're fined every time they do. So why did you eliminate the CFPB? How is that a cancer? How could that possibly be compared to a cancer in any way, shape, or form? That wasn't a cancer. You are the cancer for ending it.
The objections and the counter proposals are, it's fine, just leave it the way it is.
No, they're not. There are ways to fix this. Honestly, there really aren't that many problems with the system. We should have a system of audits to make sure that, companies and government departments and things are all following laws and expectations and everything. They're staying within their bounds and all that stuff. And if they fail the audits, then there should be consequences for that. That'd be step 1. Step 2, hire a bunch of inspectors general to follow up on all of these cases to make sure that there aren't any scams going on in the government. You know what isn't a step? firing people illegally, like violating union rules and expectations, ignoring the fact that Congress has the power of the purse, not the executive branch, and just going in and forcing your way in and forcing people to plug in your personal server so that you can personally sift through Americans' data. That's not a solution. I don't care if your solution is good or bad or whatever. That's certainly not the solution.
Like, we need infectious disease research, we need this, we need that. Like, it's not fine. Nothing was going well. And
yes, it was.
If that's your position, that actually what we were doing for the last 4 years, and in fact the last 60 was fine, then we don't see things the same way.
Well,
I would love it if she would just like name something that was not going well. Name some way that everything was going really, really poorly in government. Like, how was government dropping the ball specifically? What was government doing? What government agency pissed you off and why? And in what way?
there's one part of that I would adjust, which is I'm not so worried about the people who think it was fine. Mm-hmm. What I'm worried about is the people who know that it isn't fine and are now going to be hyper-focused on the part of the surgery in which healthy tissue is cut in order.
You know what else about this whole thing? The beard and mustache are really fucking bad. While you're shaving your head bald, shave that shit off too. I am begging you. Please get rid of that. It is so bad. You look like a pedophile. I don't know how else to say it. Please get rid of that stuff.
The part of the surgery in which healthy tissue is cut in order to get to the tumor, right? And the point is, I don't like the damaging of healthy tissue either. But unless there's actually a plan in which you get to the tumor without, maybe you've got an arthroscopic plan that gets to the tumor.
Okay, this analogy failed like 20 minutes ago. This is not how anything works. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We can reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in government without this. And it's like really disgusting that they're justifying it.
Tumor every bit as effectively and doesn't do as much damage to the surface.
Well, you know what Republicans are doing right now? They just proposed a bill which will likely pass, a budget bill, basically. They're going to be able to push it through via budget reconciliation, which means they can bypass the filibuster rules. And that means it's almost certainly going to pass. And the result of this new budget that Republicans are passing is Medicaid and Medicare are basically done away with. They don't exist anymore for the most part. I think that there are a few cases in which people can continue to be on Medicaid, but Medicare at least is being cut by 30%. Medicaid is being cut by, I think, $900 billion or something like that. So, hold on. I'm just trying to figure this out. Hold on. Yeah, it's cutting $880 billion from Medicaid. It looks like Medicaid paid out $660 billion in medical claims in 2023, the previous fiscal year or whatever. So, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much it's losing. That includes, by the way, that includes children's health insurance, CHIP. That includes health care for children. It's also being cut to shit, if I'm reading all of this correctly, which I'm pretty sure I am. They basically just funded Medicaid with $0. However, states pay 30% of Medicaid claims or whatever. So Medicaid might still exist on a state level, maybe, depending on the state, of course. A children's health insurance program, CHIP, so kids can go to a doctor if they're sick. That's being cut to shit because that's part of Medicaid, cut to nothing. So Republicans have just eliminated health insurance for the poor and for children. By the way, this is the reason that Brian Thompson was capped by allegedly Luigi Mangione. This right here. Are they representing the people? Are Republicans doing what the people want? Is this the will of the people that they're doing right now? By basically eliminating Medicaid from existence for all intents and purposes? Is this what they wanted? So they're cutting Medicaid to kill waste, fraud, and abuse, even though there is no waste, fraud, or abuse through Medicaid, while simultaneously giving tax cuts to the filthy rich. So you know what they're doing? They're eliminating Medicaid. How much are they giving in tax cuts? Wait, I believe it's something like a $2 trillion tax cut. But basically, if I'm correct here, I believe that the government will take in $2 trillion less in taxes over the course of over the course of 10 years than they are right now. Except people that make under a certain amount, they will be paying $2,000 a month or $2,000 a year more in taxes. So they're raising taxes for people that make under, say, $100,000 a year. They're raising them for them, and they're lowering them for billionaires, while cutting Medicaid, children's health insurance, and Medicare and Social Security, while calling them leeches. They call them parasites, actually. Elon called them parasites. People who are on Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, or Social Security are parasites, according to Elon. This is bad. This is real bad. And completely transparent. Like, they're not even trying to hide it. They don't give a shit anymore. I don't know how anybody's defending this. Do you know my wife works for American Atheists, and she said that she's been seeing social credit score bills come through. If you guys are unfamiliar with social credit scores, it's pretty popular in China. Basically, if you jaywalk, there are cameras everywhere because it's a surveillance state in China. If you jaywalk, your social credit score goes down, and you're less likely to be able to buy a house if you have a low social credit score. If you're gay, your social credit score goes down. If you are an addict, social credit score drops. And it's considered one of the most dystopian things imaginable. Certainly dystopian by my estimation. The United States senators and House members and stuff are proposing social credit score bills right now. I did not see that coming. I mean, I don't think they're going to get through. I hope. I don't see any reason why. It's not the subject of debate on a national scale right now, so probably not. But the fact that they're being proposed is like, what? How did we get here? What is happening? And you know what would lower your social credit score in a Republican's dream, right? Furries, trans people, gay people, women would have certain lower credit scores, that kind of deal. So I don't talk to my family members that much. My sister every now and then, my brother sometimes, and my other brother is a MAGA diehard nutcase. So I was talking to my brother that's not a MAGA diehard nutcase. He's just kind of moderate, generally independent, middle of the road, sometimes votes Republican, sometimes Democrat, but he hates Trump. Thinks he's a pompous idiot, and he voted Kamala this go around. And I said to him the other day, I texted him and I was like, how's it going? You seen what's happening? And he said, yeah, kind of skimmed, what was happening. He said that his dog, basically he said he got laid off, and a week later his dog died. That is some shit, right? Imagine that shit getting piled up on top of itself. Oh my God, you got to feel for him. Anyway, so I was talking to my brother. He said that his dog died or whatever, and I was like, I don't know what Republicans are up to. I don't know what's going on with them right now, but my wife, I told him that she works for American Atheists. I think he knew that. And I said she's seen a lot of social credit scores come across her desk that she's fighting. And it's like, what the hell is happening? How did we get to a point where we're accepting social credit scores? Like, that is a nonpartisan issue. That is just flatly bad, right? Social credit scores? Honestly, credit scores are bad. But anyway, my brother is like, yeah, probably a response to all of the woke insanity happening right now with all of these, woke people trying to punish conservatives for disagreeing with them. It's like, okay, wow. I thought it was nonpartisan. I guess it's not. I kind of take my brother as a kind of gauge for where the kind of the moderate is in this world. And he says he wants to see government cuts, but he doesn't believe that Elon is the person for the job, and he doesn't think Elon should be doing it at all. He shouldn't be involved in there at all, according to him. So that's interesting. Social credit scores, OMFG. Yeah, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. It's just not. They're going to push these bills. It's like the bill that the senator or whoever proposed recently, basically to abolish the IRS. It's not happening. I mean, they're going to cut taxes to the bone and they're going to get rid of IRS agents and everything. They're not going to abolish the IRS. I'm just not convinced. Maybe, but I don't think so. Maybe I'll be eating those words later. Anyway, the point that I'm getting to here is a lot of moderates feel an incessant need to criticize the left as well as the right when this is not a two-sided issue. It's a one-sided issue. These people are psychotic. There's something broken in their brains that needs to be dealt with, and I don't know how. That is the point that I so laboriously wanted to reach.
Surgery in which healthy tissue is cut in order to get to the tumor, right? And the point is, I don't like the damaging of healthy tissue either. But unless there's actually a plan in which you get to the tumor without, maybe you've got an arthroscopic plan that gets to the tumor every bit as effectively and doesn't do as much damage to the surface, great, I'm all.
They haven't even looked at any plans that could accomplish the job without damage. Donald Trump just sent Elon Musk in there to start unplugging shit, and that killed people. Many people have died as a direct result of what Elon Musk did.
All ears. If that plan exists and the Trump administration is missing it, I want to know, and it's our obligation to point out, hey, you're doing more damage than is necessary to do the good in question. But if the good in question requires the damage being done, I'm up for the damage, because the degree to which our system was compromised in advance of this administration being seated was so profound that there was going to be no way of doing this.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Requires the damage being done, I'm up for the damage, because the degree to which our system was compromised in advance of this administration being...
How? In what way? And how do you even know that? How was it damaged? What was damaged about it? He's just making this shit up, whole cloth. It's just fabricated out of the ether. How is our system damaged?
Seated was so profound that there was going to be no way of doing this in a non-disruptive form. It was going to be massively disruptive. And frankly, there's one element of this. Let's take the unemployment part. If you're going to take the bloated federal bureaucracy, which is full of all sorts of unnecessary things.
No, it's really not. I've come to conclude it's not. It's not full of unnecessary things. The federal government is very good at what it does, actually. It's very efficient. In all seriousness, people want to hire government employees. Any company would, because they know that they are worth their salt. Now, aside from that, there's going to come a time when it's time to hide people. When did that time come in Germany? I don't know exactly when that moment was. Anne Frank, I believe, lived in Holland. The Nazi movement took over that area. So people hid Jews in Holland and other places as the Nazis basically conquered those areas. There will come a time when we need to start hiding people. We may already be there, honestly. Let them stay at our house. Now, I don't know if you listening to this right now, I don't know if you're rich, but you have something to give. If you have a place to live and you're white, you're less likely to be pursued. If you are more safe from being targeted by ICE than others, you have a responsibility to help any way you can, even if it's not financially. Start hiding people if they need it. Somebody comes up to you and they say, I fear that I'm going to be taken to Guantanamo Bay. Open your door and let them in. Now it's the time, right now, to do that. So if you feel down, if you don't know what to do, the answer is wait. You will know when that moment comes what you can do. And the way things are going right now, it seems like that thing is hide people, if nothing else. Anyway, yeah, I might make that its own short. Let's continue.
Including a vast number of de facto terrorists who've been terrorizing the normal people of the world over DEI, who've been literally threatening us.
What? People threatening others over DEI? What are you talking about? Bro, get a grip. ICE is more similar to the Gestapo, in my opinion, since they were the ones sending people to concentration camps like Guantanamo Bay. That's true, but I feel like the Gestapo was more focused on keeping the German population in line and like preventing them from talking about what was happening, preventing dissent, censorship, wiretapping, things like that, listening in on people's phones. And the people that were doing the deporting, I guess it depends on what moment in the war or before the war we're referring to, but I guess by like 1940, for example, I think that the SS was going around looking for Jews. The SA, also known as the Brown Shirts, they started as the Brown Shirts, was created because the Treaty of Versailles put a limit of 100,000 men on how big the German military could be. So Hitler started the Brown Shirts group. They acted as his bodyguards for a while and stuff. And it was like the Proud Boys. They roughed people up and things. And they met together and would hold rallies and parades and things to show their strength. And they organized like a military unit, like a regiment. Eventually, the SS, the Schutzstaffel, I believe is how it's pronounced, they split off as a division of the SA or of the Brown Shirts. The Brown Shirts integrated into the Wehrmacht, the army. So the army, technically, their military, they had only 100,000 people, but the SA, the Brown Shirts, had trained as military personnel for so long that they just kind of blended together. And the SS split off to become basically the police. And anybody that was on the civil side of enforcement, civil enforcement, was SS pretty much. Like, they were the ones with the jet black uniforms, the hat with the death's head on the front. They called them the Death's Head Division for a while. It was a division of the Brown Shirts at first. And they acted as Hitler's bodyguards when the SA went off to war. So anyway, the SS did a lot of, they were kind of like, they were police officers. And I believe Gestapo members were SS. Any civil side enforcement were SS. So the Gestapo had the express objective of censoring people and preventing them from saying anything negative about Hitler or about the Nazi Party or whatever else. The Abwehr was run by Admiral Canaris, and that was the intelligence agency. Kind of like, it was a German intelligence agency. It was like the NSA and the CIA combined, if I remember correctly. And all of the police officers that stood on the side of the road checking people's papers, they were all SS members. And the SS would go into people's homes. They would raid people's homes if they caught wind that, you know, they were hiding Jews or whatever was going on, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read about the structure of it, but I believe that's how it was structured. So anyway, what was it that we were referring to? Was the Gestapo or the SS? The Gestapo is like the FBI today, right now, in that I believe they're going to start censoring people heavily. But who's the other group that I said was like the SS?
Over DEI?
ICE, yes. ICE is like the SS, or like a subdivision of the SS, because of course the SS was like, it was a large organization, and any local enforcement agency was made up of SS members, basically. They're just government employees, pretty much.
Who've been literally threatening us. You're going to unemploy those people.
I have no idea what he's talking about being threatened.
The proper, I believe, the best solution to that, I do believe we don't want people to be unemployed and to be unable to recover and go do something productive.
You don't want people to be unemployed and be unproductive. Okay. Well, it would have been good if we had a plan ahead of time to try to make sure that that didn't happen before all of this went through. But okay,
right? We want to
I get it. That's asking too much, right?
protect people from becoming homeless. But to the extent that these people were employed doing something that they should never have been employed doing, and a large number of them are suddenly going to show up in the job market, and that's
Like, what are you talking about? Something they shouldn't have been doing. Like what? What should they have not been doing?
should never have been employed doing, and a large number of them are suddenly going to show up in the job market, and that's a problem. The interventionist response with, we have to do something about these people, it's one approach. But the other approach is actually, as crude as it is, markets deal with this. And they deal with it by recognizing that the price of labor has now dropped because there are a lot of employable people, and it makes use of them. So,
Oh, please. So, in this utopian world of his, everybody's going to be able to get a job because the markets will adjust, and that's just what markets do. Please, you're embarrassing yourself right now. Stop. That's not how it works. That is not how it has ever worked. Ever. Do you really think that the markets are just going to adjust so that everybody has a job? He's got a PhD. Is he this fucking stupid? He can't be this fucking stupid, can he?
the question is, are you going to beat the market in terms of what you do about the DEI unemployed? Or should you place some protections and allow the market to figure out that it's got a lot of people who need something productive to do, and that we have a lot of new opportunities that we haven't spotted before? And
the problem is that there isn't an unlimited number, or there aren't unlimited numbers of positions. Like, my wife works for a nonprofit organization right now, American Atheists, as a lawyer. She works there as legal counsel, right? But she can't, or let me rephrase. Now that the US government is firing a bunch of people, there are thousands or even tens of thousands of lawyers flooding the job market, making themselves available and looking for jobs now. And there are only so many jobs available in this market. So, it doesn't matter if American Atheist lowers the price of whatever, of hiring these lawyers. Yeah, they're going to be making half of what they're making right now would be the end result of that. But it doesn't even matter because they're not going to fire my wife to hire one of those people, if for no other reason than because it costs a ton of money to onboard somebody new. For the first, I don't remember what it is, 3 months or something, you're losing money by having these people there every time, by hiring somebody new, because the learning curve for a new job is so high, especially in skilled jobs in the legal field, for example. So these people just aren't going to have jobs. They're just not going to have positions. And what he's describing is, in the best case scenario, is a case where the U.S. economy completely tanks and people are getting paid dirt, even for high-skilled positions. That's what he's hoping is going to happen. And they're not going to be able to, even make rent because they're being paid so little because the market has been flooded. That's just not how anything ever works. That's not how it has ever worked. Is this guy dumb as dog shit, or is he lying? It's so hard to know sometimes. I think in his case, he's intentionally, maliciously lying. I don't see any other way around this, honestly.
And to find some way to get those things to meet.
Yeah, my only the objection that comes up in my mind there is this is just the beginning, because this is not we are not about to have, let's call it, tens of thousands of people on the job market who really have no skills. This is the tip of the spear.
So she's saying these are skilled workers or whatever. I don't know what that has to do with anything. God, these people are so insufferable. I cannot stand it. I'm sorry, man. That's just the absolute worst. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.